not allow how things to change over some.
Yeah. Yeah.
These don't exist anymore. Everyone's very I suppose all rights, clearless, the whole but a lot of it was talking about the Canadian law,
Yeah.
how things are going to change and Quebec is different. Well,
Yeah. Spirit. Okay. So let me share my screen. Okay. So we just started this chapter yesterday, the idea of the shutfus of Yisachar and Zevulun. Everyone has an obligation to study Torah in the morning and in the night. If a person can't study, either because he doesn't have the knowledge or because he's so consumed by work that he just doesn't have the ability to. So Yisapek la'acherim halomdim, he should support other people who are studying Torah, and it will be considered as if he's learning himself. Lifnei sha'asak b'Torah, yachal adam lahatnot im chavero shehu yasok b'Torah v'chavero yamsilo parnasa. He says, before you actually embark on a study, you can negotiate with a partner and say to him, okay, I will learn Torah. You provide me with my sustenance. And whatever Torah study I learn in the future, I will divide the schar, the reward for that Torah study. And that's called this partnership of Yisachar and Zvulun. Aval im kvar osak b'Torah, eno yachol limkar lo eschar talmudo bishvil mammon sheyidnu lo. But for the Torah study you've already done, you can't sell that. In other words, you don't have the ability to sell the reward for stuff that you've already studied in the past. I'm just curious who the source for this is. That's the Ramah. Okay. Umikol makom misha tomech bo yesh lo zechus shel hachzakas haTorah. But it's still, I mean, even if a person pays someone for past Torah study, you still certainly get the reward of supporting Torah study. I would even argue that, let's say a person is publishing a sefer and he's looking for a sponsor to publish the sefer, even though it's a reflection of his past Torah study. The person who sponsors the sefer is still supporting Torah study. Plus, he's also supporting the proliferation of even future Torah study by supporting that publication. No, apparently not. Apparently, it's an interesting thing because it has to do with an intellectual endeavor. It's not a mitzvah masis. It's not a physical mitzvah performance. It's an intellectual endeavor. In other words, I don't have the ability to sit and learn. I don't have the Sitzfleisch, or I didn't have the education, but I know that it's an important thing. It's not like not being able to wear tzitzis or tefillin. A person can't do that for you. A person can't daven for you either. It seems that this is to be motzi you in a mitzvah, but that's not the same thing as doing the mitzvah, right? Sure, I can be yotze. If let's say there's tekiah shofar, I can be yotze with listening to the shofar because that's the mitzvah. The mitzvah is to listen to tekiah shofar. But in this situation, I'm not even listening to someone learning. I'm getting their reward vicariously, and the person is able to pass that reward on to me. It seems to be, I mean, you raise a good point, but it seems to be a unique situation. There doesn't seem to be another mitzvah where if I do it, just thinking, maybe it could be there's certain types of chesed that would also fall under this category. Let's say there's a Bikur Cholim organization, and they provide food and visitations and help for the people who are in the hospital. So I can't do it myself. I don't cook the food, but I'd like to support the people who do that. So sure, you get the reward as if you yourself, you by enabling other people to do the mitzvah of Bikur Cholim, it would seem that you get some level of schar for that mitzvah of Bikur Cholim as well, because you're supporting its activity, you're enabling people to go, and so forth and so on. But as far as an intellectual endeavor, it's really quite unusual that you would be able to get the reward for something that you didn't study. It's it's like having someone take a test for you, right? The knowledge doesn't get transferred over into your mind. It's quite interesting because I don't believe that the Rambam would hold of the Yisachar Zvulun partnership, because the Rambam understands that the mitzvah of Talmud Torah is an intellectual enhancement that makes you closer to Hashem through the actual endeavor of Talmud Torah. You transform yourself intellectually into a person who's closer to God. So that certainly doesn't happen, but the Rambam still might admit that you get some level of reward. It's not really possible. In other words, when we say that you and I split the reward, okay, I'll pay you, you study Torah, and I'll get half the reward, right? But what about the fact that I lack the enhancement of a person who now is intellectually endowed with a huge amount of knowledge? I don't get that knowledge. It doesn't come to me. So when you get to Olam Haba, you're going to be able to learn you'll be able to go to Abaya and Rava's shir in Olam Haba. I'm still going to be back with the guys who are learning Aleph Beis, right? Because I didn't study properly. So I may get some kind of reward, but it's not going to really be a meaningful reward in Olam Haba. We have to appreciate that, but nonetheless, there is some level of reward. Okay. So the poskim debate the issue. Does the Yisachar, the guy who's learning, does he lose some of his reward by accepting sustenance from Zvulun? Because in other words, if the deal is that I get half of your reward, so then I've subtracted 50% from you. Yesh sovrim sha'afal pisha Zvulun kibul me'aschar shel Yisachar. So some say that even though Zvulun is getting half of a Yisachar's reward, Yisachar hasn't lost anything. It's like igniting a flame. And others disagree. And they say, no, Yisachar has lost half of his reward. And the final opinion, which makes the most sense to me, is that in these areas, we really have no way of knowing, because these are all spiritual matters. And the truth is that, we don't really know what Olam Haba is like, but it certainly stands to reason that Olam Haba is not a place where you go up to the angel at the pearly gates and he says, he has an iPad with him. He says, let's tally up your score. Okay, well, you've got the reward of this number of points for all of the Torah that you supported. Ding, 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 ding. And you see the numbers accrue. That's really most likely not what Olam Haba looks like. It's not going to be a points game, right? It's a nice way of thinking. It's a very simplistic way of thinking of it. But we have to appreciate that Olam Haba, at least according to many of the medievalists who have a more intellectual approach to Judaism, Olam Haba is where your soul has a certain level of enhancement because of the intrinsic things you've done with it over the course of your lifetime. In other words, you are a product of everything that you've done, everything that you've said, and everything that you think. And so, for a person to pay for someone else to be enhanced through Torah study, it's a little bit difficult to understand how that's going to work and why Yisachar should have his reward detracted from. It's difficult to understand. Maybe I'll print out the Igros Moshe for next time. Okay. Yeah.
Everyone should be really working and learning.
Correct. Yes.
It's not an ideal situation.
It's not ideal for Zavulun to, well, listen, let me put it to you this way.
Why, sitting in the big midrash and, and taking in and learning, enjoys doing that, but he's not toiling.
Well,
Maybe he's toiling in his studies, but he's not toiling in the work world.
so the question that Ron raises, is this an ideal situation? Is it ideal? I think it depends on the individual. There are certain people for whom ideally they should be sitting and learning all day because they are going to become the next chief rabbi, the next Gadol Hador, and they're going to be needed for their great expertise to lead a community. Okay, there are other people for whom sitting in the base medrash all day is not going to be a productive endeavor. There are also certain people that if they were to go to work and leave the base medrash, that would be tragic for that person because he was meant to be Rabbi so-and-so, the great Rabbi so-and-so. But then there are other people for whom, that it's tragic for them to not go to work because they're not meant to stay in the base medrash. So I think that for most people, the vast majority of people, a life that is balanced between work and Torah study is the ideal. But you do have exceptions. You do have some people who whether you want to call it attention deficit disorder, they simply don't have the ability to sit. There are people who are quite brilliant in many areas of life, but you ask them to sit down and try to study a piece of Gemara, forget it. It's not gonna go anywhere, right? It ain't happening, right? And for those people and by the way, our educational system fails those people because it makes them feel like they're failures. And whenever you make a person feel like they're a failure, then you failed that person. So that's a problem. But for those people, it would be better for them to support other people studying Torah than for them to try to break their teeth over a piece of Gemara. Okay? So I hope that helps. Okay. Haposkim nachluku b'shir shezvulun sarach lases liyisachar kedei lachlok imo et schar talmudo. The question is, how much does Zvulun have to give to Yisachar in order to split the reward? Okay, so Yesha Pasku Shadais Shezvulun Yisapek et Kol Tzarcha Yisachar Bishvil Lachlok imo. Some say that as long as Zvulun takes care of Yisachar's every financial need, so then I can split with you your Torah study. V'im Zvulun Yisapek Chatzi o Shlish Mitzarcha Yisachar, o Behetemu Yikabel Escharo. And if Zvulun, let's say, only takes care of half or a third of Yisachar's financial needs, then he gets only a half of that percentage. In other words, I'm taking care of, let's say, 50% of your needs, and another guy's taking care of another 50% of your needs. So I'm not going to get a half of your schar. I'm only going to get a quarter of your schar because the other guy's going to get the other quarter. There's actually an opinion that says that in order for Zvulun to get half of Yisachar's reward, you have to provide for Yisachar half of all of your earnings. In other words, whatever I get, whatever I bring in, Yisachar gets half. So there's two different ways of looking at this. It's either a 50-50 partnership, but bilaterally across the board. I get half of your Torah, you get half of my parnasa. So that's the latter opinion. So if I had a great year and I made $5 million, I got to, and that's profit, I have to split it with you because that's the Yisachar's Zvulun partnership. Not a bad little deal. I'd go for that.
Yeah, but you only paid $10,000, maybe you wouldn't want to know.
Yeah, that's right. But you have to you have to choose your partners carefully. Right? Yeah. Yeah, you always get schar. You always get schar whenever you enable other people to do a mitzvah. You get some reward for enabling others to do a mitzvah. There's no way to quantify it, right? So when we go through this shuv of Rav Moshe, we'll take a look. Apparently, Rav Moshe is the one who advocates this idea of splitting 50-50 mamish. Okay. Now, Lefi Hadeya, Shaddai Shizvulun Yisapek et Kol Tzarchei Yisachar Bishvil Lachlok Imo Eschar Talmudo. So according to the first opinion, that all you have to do is take care of Yisachar's financial needs in order to split the reward. You don't have to split your whole income with him. So now there's another machlokas. What if Zavulun wants to use his meiser money to donate to the partnership? Yesh sovrim she'ein laseis mi meiser l'shut v'sisachar Zavulun v'yesh misha sover shemutar. So machlokas. Is this mitzvah independent from the mitzvah of maaser ksafim, of tithing my income, and that I can't double dip? If I'm tithing, then I can't use it to get half of Yisachar's reward. That's the first opinion. Then there's a second opinion that says it's all in the realm of tzedakah and it's okay. Aposkim nechluk Zavulun sarach lasos tanai mefurashim Yisachar. Now the poskim also have this discussion. Does Zavulun have to make an explicit contract with Yisachar, basically stating the terms of the deal? Yesh sovrim shetzarach tanai mefurash avalot tzarach kinyan. Some say that there does have to be an explicit agreement between the two, but in ours it has to be explicated in some way, either in writing or at least in verbal form. But there doesn't need to be a kinyan. The minhag is for them to write up a piece of paper, write up a contract, but it's not something that's absolutely necessary. And some say that it's not clear whether such a contract has to be specified explicitly. So again, we'll take a look at this tshuva from Rav Moshe. Okay. Why? Tell me why.
My first question, I just have a hard time. Hey, here's $5,000. Here go, or here. If I'm gonna make $1 million, I have to give you $500,000, or here's $100,000 that we accept on the first idea. That is your. Just sounds a little bit.
Well, look, here's what I think. I think that this view that you split everything that you earn with your partner is viewing it as a real partnership. As really, it's almost as if you have two divisions to your business. You have the Torah study division and you have the widget division of your business. The widget is the part of the business that helps to support it, and they help each other. The Torah study division helps the corporation, and the widget division helps the corporation. The widget division brings in hard cash, and the Torah division brings in spiritual money also. They both earn tremendous amounts of money. So, but it's one corporate entity, and so each side has to share the assets. Let's say a guy has a tremendously successful Torah study year. He mastered a certain text and was able to teach 1,000 people a certain skill, and had tremendous influence. He's not asking for more than his share, but it's a partnership. I may have a good year, I may have a bad year in my Torah study, but I still want you to pay me from you're my equal partner. So that's the attitude that is being looked at over here, that it is a true partnership, 50-50 partnership. But then the other attitude is not really a 50-50 partnership. Come on. It's really just to make sure that Yisachar is supported so that he can live and support his family. So it's not an equal partnership. Okay. So two ways of looking at it.
Now, let's discuss like the tenure of the partnership. I know that it's lifelong.
Whatever terms you want to come up with, whatever the terms are, that's the reward you get for the duration of the term.
I contrast with my lawyer is 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day.
I think it's all fair. It's all fair. Look, I want to make sure that I get a good return on my investment. So I want to make sure, let's say, if I'm going to invest in you, Mr. Kolel Jungerman, I want to make sure that I'm getting a good return on my investment. So if I was going to do this and support, let's say, my son-in-law who's learning in Kolel, right? Say he's my son-in-law. I want to support him learning in Kolel. That's fair. But I think every father-in-law should say to his son-in-law, let's sit down. Tell me what your learning Seder Hayom is, and how many coffee breaks are you entitled to? And how much time do you take off for, I'm serious, how much time do you take off for lunch? And how productive are you? And would you be willing to report back to me that when you feel you're no longer being productive in the Beis Medrash, that you're ready to retire from the Beis Medrash? I don't want to support a Kollel student who's no longer as productive as he should be. I'm only willing to support you for that duration. What? No, why?
You have an obligation because you're your son-in-law, and that's what everyone does.
No, I know I'm very serious about this. I wouldn't support a son-in-law unless I knew that he was being productive. Why would I want to support someone to do something that I know is self-destructive? There are guys who are sitting in Kollel who are not productive. That's not the majority. It's a minority of people who are learning in Kollel who are simply not productive and are there because of peer pressure and societal pressure. And they shouldn't be there. Why would I want to support these guys? I'm actually helping them do something that is so destructive. It's so destructive. For them, it's destructive. It destroys the morale of their family. It destroys the morale of the Beis Medrash, because these guys are outside on their phones when they should be sitting and learning. And maybe it's even supporting someone to steal, because people are supporting him, expecting him to learn, and he's not learning. So why would I want to support a son-in-law like that? I would be doing him the best favor by encouraging him to leave the Beis Medrash, to leave Kollel, and to go and work in either the private sector, or maybe to become a shul rabbi or an educator, so that if he wants to stay in rabbinics, that's fine. You shouldn't be spending your whole day learning. You're not meant for, you're not cut out for it, right? So.
That partnership is to work with it. Send your son to yeshiva, that you can get some of the merit of that order. That has to be separate entity.
Well, once my son is an adult, then yes, I mean, we learned before that a parent gets the reward for his parent has no obligation to send his son to learn Torah. So it would seem very clear that if a person, let's say, is a Baal Tshuva, doesn't have the ability to learn very well, but his son wants to go learn in Kollel or Yeshiva for a number of years, by supporting him would fall under the rubric of the Yisachar Zvulun relationship. My son can be the Yisachar also. I have no obligation to support him.
What is that line, when does it stop at where the father's obligation for his son?
When he's 6 years old. Remember we learned that?
Want to work it. There's no child labor law. They're back and forth.
Okay, Siman Yud Zayin as an interesting topic. Hatavos b'makom tashlum maaser. Can I provide services in lieu of meiser ksafim, in lieu of actual cash, as far as providing tithing? If I'm tithing, what if I don't give 10% of my income, but I give my time, I give other things? Are there other ways can I provide services instead of actual tzedakah, money, as a form of meiser? Okay. Misha ani chayev lo kesef, ve'ein lo l'shalem. Yesh misha posak shiyochol lenakos es achov al cheshbon meiser haksafim o mikupas hatzdaka rak keshehisna ken merosh bishas halva. So here's an interesting idea. A poor man is owed money, and he doesn't have, and the person who owes him the money, his debtor does not have the ability to pay him. So by me giving tzedakah to the poor person, I can actually, some say that I can use that to deduct from my Yesh misha pasuk sheyachol lenakot et hachov al cheshbon meiser haksafim or mikupas hatzdaka. So some say that you can pay him back using meiser money because he qualifies as a poor person. But that's only true if that was negotiated at the time of the loan. V'yesh mi shecholek umatir lenakot afilu shelo hitna ken merosh. Some say that even if that was not negotiated from the start, you can do this, but you need permission from the ani who says, listen, you can pay me back even from your meiser money. That's fine. And also, it has to be that you would have given to this poor person anyway. And so therefore you can use your tzedakah money to kill two birds with one stone. I owe you money and I also want to give you tzedakah. So I can use my meiser money to pay back the money that I owe you, plus to give you that money as tzedakah, which is an unusual kind of situation. Now this is not what this is probably one of those introductory ideas. Let's see how long this chapter is. We're going to get to other real situations as far as what can I deduct if I provide services and my services are worth, let's say, $1,000. Can I use that as a charitable donation? As let's say I'm a lawyer and I want to provide legal services to a poor person. I want to provide pro bono work. And I do that because I know this guy can't afford the services. I'm going to provide him or medical services if I'm a physician, and I want to be able to say, well, I just provided $1,000 of service, so I'd like to conclude that in my meiser donations. So let's say I was going to give $10,000 to tzedakah this year as part of my meiser. So I only have to give now 9,000 because I've provided 9,000 I've provided already 1,000 in services. So this is really what this whole chapter is about. You have a gift in kind, right? You get a tax receipt for services. Yeah, that's right. Okay, we'll continue this in Mirz Hashem tomorrow. Not tomorrow, in 2 days. I'm sleeping in tomorrow. I want to make that